Hello and welcome to Always Sunny in Hollywood, where we are here to make you sad and make about death and stuff.
Yep. So today we are going to be talking about Scott Pilgrim versus the World and all of its related media. My name is Red. I have seen the movie, played the game, read the comic, and seen the prequel cartoon. So I guess I'm the Scott Pilgrim expert in the group.
My name is Patrick, and as far as Scott Pilgrim media, I have only ever really seen the movie. I've played the game briefly once, and I've never read the comic.
You can call me Lugia. I've seen the movie 3 times in the past month and a half, and I've played the game quite extensively.
Jesus, just in a month?
And I'm Elias, and I've only seen the movie once, and that was just yesterday. So novice here.
Yep. So we got a nice little gradient of basically everyone has a bunch of different experiences with the series.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you want to start us off with how this started as a comic book?
Okay, yeah. So Scott Pilgrim eventually started out as a comic book written by Canadian Brian Lee O'Malley. If you read the series, you can definitely tell he's Canadian because it's a lot about Canada. It was inspired by manga. Uh, Specifically, I think Tezuka. You can really tell in the artwork. He's the guy who made Astro Boy, and honestly, he's actually just had just a ton of influence from all around the world. He even mentioned Tintin as influence. I don't see it anywhere in there, but he said Tintin was an influence, so I'll just believe him. It's about 6 volumes, which is about the length of Akira and Nazca in the Valley of the Wind, and like those, the movie had to really condense all of the information. So um, it really follows some of them really closely, but it kind of, as it goes on, tapers off. I don't think the last volume wasn't even out when the movie came out. He hadn't finished it.
Yeah, it was kind of a point where they just had no idea what to do because they didn't have the source material. That's
Yeah,
nothing new when it comes to adaptations, but
yeah.
we do get some
I mentioned
original
Akira
stuff out of
because
it.
that's actually the exact same thing happened with Akira, where the ending happened after the movie was already out, and some people question whether the movie actually influenced the ending or the person just told the movie writers what the ending was going to be.
Right. Didn't they also have an original ending that just got cut out?
Uh, they did have an original ending, yes. Two original endings. One was I know a lot of I do believe the final issue did come out before the movie was done, but while it was in production, it was still being written. So some fans they really disliked the movie's ending, and so they shot a new one for the theatrical release. We'll get into ending later. I have opinions on both of them. But yeah,
Yeah, the alternate ending is available as an extra in the DVD. I saw it once a long time ago, but I remember the basic of how it went.
yeah. There's lots of movies that have different endings, some to varying degrees. I think I Am Legend and Die Hard with a Vengeance they have better endings in the original cut, but I think Army of Darkness has a much better ending in the theatrical version. So
Well, speaking of movies and endings in Scott Pilgrim, why don't we talk about the Scott Pilgrim movie?
yes,
Novel idea, right?
yeah, what a
Yeah.
wonderful
What a
idea.
yeah.
Okay.
So the title is based off the second comic, Scott Pilgrim versus the World. The first comic was called Scott Pilgrim's Precious Little Life,
And I
but
think they went on to other subtitles too that I don't even remember honestly.
yeah, but Versus the World was probably the coolest one. Although, actually, no, it wasn't the coolest one. Volume 5 was called Scott Pilgrim versus the Universe, but you know what? I think it was the best title, Versus the World, so let's just leave it at that. This was directed by Edgar Wright, who directed the Cornetto trilogy and Baby Driver. His movie Hot
Just a
Fuzz
question: Have any of you guys seen any other Edgar Wright movies?
yeah, Hot Fuzz is like my top 5 favorite movies of all time. I absolutely love Hot Fuzz.
I would say I never saw an Edgar Wright movie until yesterday, because I was watching Hot Fuzz with a couple of friends of mine. It was good.
Oh, right.
I don't know if I consider it better or worse, but that's not really the topic at hand right now.
Yeah. I should know one of the reasons I think I like Hot Fuzz so much is because it's definitely the one I've seen the most. I've seen it like 6 times.
Damn.
Other than Scott Pilgrim, the only other Edgar Wright movies I've seen are Hot Fuzz and Baby Driver.
I had not seen any other Edgar Wright movies.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess just like with our experience with Scott Pilgrim, I am the most experienced with Edgar Wright, and Elias is the least. How convenient.
All right, so
It's consistent.
Yep.
I guess so.
Alright.
So
As for the story, it's pretty simple. Scott Pilgrim is dating a high school student named Knives Chow, but then meets a girl named Ramona Flowers.
no, you're doing it all wrong. You got to start out like this. Once upon a time, in the mysterious land of Toronto, Canada, Scott Pilgrim was dating a high schooler. Come on, that's how the movie starts.
Right.
Literally,
And
first thing you see.
The whole 8-bit beginning thing threw me off when I watched it yesterday. Like with the Universal
Oh,
thing, was like
the Universal logo. Yeah.
I
with
think
the
that was a
8-bit
nice stylistic choice.
with the
Yeah.
8-bit music. I was like, okay, not having any context of the movie. I was like, okay, this is how this is going to be.
Just the type of movie, letting you know right off the hand what type of movie it is.
Right. That's kind of what I thought.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm
This
sorry,
whole
I threw
movie
you
is a
off.
throwback
threw you off.
to video games and anime. In fact, apparently the director, because he was inspired by anime, he made it where the actors did not blink in the movie.
Really?
Wow.
I never knew
noticed.
that.
But for a lot of shots, he made sure like their eyes stayed open, just to sort of mimic the look of how a lot of anime looks. Because anime, they don't tend to animate the mouths and eyes nearly as much as the rest of the thing.
Huh.
Interesting.
Neat little
You don't
fun.
even think. Yeah.
I'd have to go and rewatch it and take a note of it.
That's gonna
Yeah.
bother me now that you told me that.
It doesn't. Yeah, I guess.
Anyway, what is that story anyway?
Yeah. So anyway, Scott is in a band called Sex Bomb. Reference to the Mario thing. Speaking of Mario, apparently the director Edgar Wright literally wrote Shigeru Miyamoto for permission to use Zelda sound effects, and he must have been a fan, or he must have wrote a convincing letter because he said yes, which is very odd because Nintendo really hates letting anyone touch anything that they've ever been related to.
I guess that's why there's really not much Nintendo stuff in Wreck-It Ralph.
I guess Miyamoto was just feeling happy that day.
Yeah, you just see what the mushroom and a
You
tiny
see
bit of dust.
Bowser and the mushroom.
Yeah.
And they mention Mario once.
In the comic, Scott kind of cheating on Knives and Ramona for quite a bit. He doesn't have the balls to break up with her, and in the movie that kind of happens too, but not it's not nearly as prevalent of a plot. But basically, Ramona has 7 ex-boyfriends, and Scott has to beat up all of them.
And you mean exes?
Yes,
Yeah.
X's.
Let me
Oh,
just
right,
say
yes,
the girl's name is Knives. That was a little bit of a mind. I couldn't get past that when I was watching. Like, this girl's name is Knives. Okay, got it.
Yeah. What's her
Knives. Like,
sister's name? She has a sister, doesn't she?
Yeah,
Forks?
I
don't-
think
I never
that's
remember what her
supposed to
name
be
is.
just a friend of hers.
I don't know.
because
She's,
she's-
I thought it was. I
she's
thought it was
only
her
in one
sister.
scene. She's
Yeah.
only
I
in
thought
one
it was her sister. Yeah.
Well, besides the point. So yeah, basically, goes through the typical. Interesting enough, despite adapting 6 comics, it kind of goes through a standard 3-act structure. They kind of put more emphasis on some of the X's than the others, but it basically goes through the typical thing. They even have the second act sort of break up and then come back together. Because of the change in the ending, the themes are a bit different. This one has a lot more to do with self-respect, the very long, complicated tapestry of the other one, and all the different relationships. Did you know the leader of the band is gay in the comics?
I thought Wallace was supposed to be the gay one.
There are multiple gay people in the
That's,
comics.
that's the roommate. He's not in the band.
A
I
lot
know
of them,
that.
a lot of subplots got cut out, and that's honestly, I think, is a real testament to the director's work and the scriptwriter, because it's really impressive how this movie was not a disaster.
All right, so Lugia, since this is your podcast, why don't you start in telling us what you thought?
Okay. I definitely think the wacky tone of it all just really helped highlight the video game-esque aesthetic that it was going for. It didn't take itself too seriously, and because of that, a lot of visual humor landed for me, even after multiple viewings. And I think this movie did a decent job at introducing me to the universe, even if it isn't as fleshed out as the comic books. and I think the fact that every character is pretty much an asshole makes it even better. Like, you would not like any of these people in real life, but because of how they work so well together, I don't know, it just makes them pretty endearing.
A lot of big name actors in here too. I'm not sure if they were big name back in 2010, but like they all feel like their characters. I don't even like really see the actors in them.
Actually, this was my first time watching the movie in like 4 or 5 years. So I completely forgot that there's actually two Avengers in it. Brie
Yeah,
Larson and Chris Evans.
yeah, and there's even more superheroes. Because well, we'll get to that when we get to that.
So
Um,
now I Snapchatted some people when I was watching it, and they asked what movie you watching, and I said, "Oh, let's call it Michael Cera beats up six a-holes into Avengers."
yeah, he beats up let's see, Brie Larson plays
His ex,
plays
his ex,
Scott's
Natalie, I
ex,
think her name was.
and she also happens to be dating Ramona's ex, who is Superman.
Oh my god!
Brandon Ruth, who played Superman, Superman Returns, and I think like some of the CW crossovers. CW is a
So,
mess. I
so
don't watch
Scott
it.
Pilgrim really is the ultimate comic book movie.
He's
Yeah,
fought and essentially killed Superman, Captain America, and dated Captain Marvel in the same goddamn movie.
yeah. And what's funny is that Chris Evans, he's been in like a dozen comic book movies. So if you want to get technical, he didn't just beat up Captain America. He beat up Johnny Storm from Fantastic Four. He beat up. Did he play a Ninja Turtle or did he play Casey Jones? I'm trying to remember. He played Casey Jones, so he beat up Casey Jones from the Ninja Turtles. He beat up the main character Snowpiercer, which is a comic book movie apparently, and like two other comic book movies that I've never heard of. Man, why the hell is Chris Evans in so many comic book movies? 18. What the fuck?
Right, Red, what are your general thoughts on the movie?
Well, I guess overall, I feel like it's odd because I have the most experience, or maybe it makes more sense. But this is honestly my least favorite Edgar Wright movie. I think it's his best directed one, but like I feel like in terms of the story, I don't like it as much as his others. It is really funny. I think one of my favorite jokes in it is when Scott jumps out the window. That was hilarious. I cracked up
It
audibly
is
with
my
that.
dad's favorite moment in the entire movie.
I saw it with my dad too actually. He was a bit he did not expect this because I don't think he's ever seen an Edgar Wright movie except Baby Driver, which we saw in theaters. I'm very impressed by the story. I think it's a incredibly tightly crafted story that got a bit messy at the end, and I find that impressive because earlier I mentioned that Akira and Nausicaa were also adaptations of six volume stuff, but the way they adapted it is that Akira only adapted the first 3 volumes of the story, and Nausicaa only adapted the first two. This one actually adapts the entire story, and I think that's pretty impressive. I do think the themes are a bit changed, so because of that, I don't actually mind any of the changes. I know lots of people get hung up over adaptational stuff, but I disagree. In fact, that's the thing with the ending. The theatrical ending was there because fans wanted that. I think that ending kind of sucks. I really vastly prefer the Knives ending, although personally I don't think either ending is all that good. I think it's like a bit weird that the happy ending is him, you know, still dating a high schooler.
I'm not
I'm like,
partial
hey,
to either ending, honestly.
yeah, I don't think either ending is all that good. Considering like it ended with him getting the power of self-respect, I think it might have been better if him and just Scott just kind of went off and did their own thing. Speaking of which, spoiler alert, we're gonna talk about the ending.
We already kind of
I
did
know,
just
but
you kind of said without officially saying the big thing of the ending.
yep. Oh well. Well, we didn't mention Gideon. That's kind of more spoilery, so whatever. I guess if I went more into the specifics of what I liked is I did for the direction. I really thought it was kind of cool how they use the comic panels as a storyboard. Some anime does that, but I always feel like it kind of gets a bit like not that great when anime does it because they always it just feels like the comic but worse. But this one, I guess I think the direction really aided it in its look. It kind of reminds me of like I guess Wes Anderson. Like, have you ever seen Isle of Dogs?
I've heard
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah,
Heard of
the
it.
direction kind of reminds me of Isle of Dogs at times. Also Sin City, which is another comic book.
That's a good one.
That I've
Yeah.
seen.
Sin City. Robert Rodriguez, he does good comic book adaptations. He also directed Alita Battle Angel, and Edgar Wright I think worked on Grindhouse, which with him. So they're all friends, I guess.
Elias, what are your thoughts on the movie?
I mean, I had heard about it. This movie came back, it came out in 2010, so definitely was in the popular culture back then. But it just somehow missed my radar. Obviously, you're familiar with the work of Michael Cera. Funny, he plays the same kind of role in all his movies. I hadn't, because I'm like, okay, you know, short kid has to kind of just, chase a girl again. That kind of seems to be the theme of his roles. He gets typecast a little bit, but I think the casting is probably one of the strongest things of the film. I enjoyed the first half of the film a lot better than the second half. I just thought it dragged a little bit. It's like almost 2 hours. This could have been about 90 minutes, really, I think. But I enjoyed it. Somebody who was totally not, who hadn't seen it, was aware of it, but hadn't seen it. I enjoyed it for what it was, kind of pulling in all the different things, like I said, anime, video game kind of aesthetics into a film. It kind of gets a little bit visually distracting, like with the graphics and stuff. It's cool, but it was, I think sometimes those things get thrown in there and kind of just visually distract you from other things that maybe they could have done different plot wise and stuff like that. But I overall enjoyed it. I would definitely watch it again and explore more in the series. I mean, obviously not as well versed as you all, but definitely got my interest peaked to go check more out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the casting because I think the casting is really good for everyone except the two main characters. I don't really like Sarah and Mary Elizabeth Winstead's casting. I don't think they really got it.
I liked them. I thought they were good.
Yeah. I think Sarah works for the movie because but my God, he is a completely different character than Scott from the comics and is really like off-putting as someone who's read it.
Right.
Um,
So you were used to somebody else's interpretation of that role.
Yeah, because Scott in the other one, he's a lot more. He's he's cool and confident. Like,
Every role that Michael Cera plays, he's not confident at all.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's
I mean, if it ain't broke, don't
here
fix it.
basically playing like the
It's
same role.
typecasting.
He's typecast. Every
Yeah.
movie he's been in, almost he's typecast.
Yeah, I found it funny. The only movie where he played a different character was in This Is the End, and that whole joke was like they were parroting that he's completely different from how he is in movies.
Right, right.
And I also find that interesting because that came out the same year as Edgar Wright's next movie, and I'm like, man, that must have really sucked for Edgar Wright because they have like the exact same plot. Like both of them are about the end of the world. Like that sucks. What'd you guys think of the soundtrack?
A+.
Yeah, the soundtrack was I think they got just a ton of indie bands because like half the songs were all like real. Those are actual like songs by different groups and stuff.
I know the cast had to perform some of those songs too. They had to learn how to play their instruments. Michael Cera was one of the only exceptions though, because he already knew how to play bass guitar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's actually kind of funny. The director told him to play the bass worse. He was like, "You're too good," like because the whole point is that Sex Bomb is kind of like a shitty band, so it's like you need to play worse.
Yeah.
You need it to sound like
You're in a band? Yeah, we're terrible.
No, the musical,
band. Like
yeah.
that's the thing. The way I see it, their band's kind of like Nirvana, where they don't know how to play the instruments, but they're still good.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
obviously, the musical component of the film is, strong, so, you got a lot of people involved with it that are actually musicians too. So,
yeah,
and,
this I think the music that Sex Bomb played was all done by Beck, who was the
oh
'90s
yeah,
musician. Big
yeah,
fan of Beck, and yeah, it's pretty good.
Apparently, the music hit the mark somewhere though, because each song has like 2 million views on YouTube each.
Yeah, that's a weird thing. This movie was a bomb, but it's got a huge cult following. But then again, every Edgar Wright movie has a huge cult following. I feel bad for Edgar Wright. He's like a beloved director, but no one has really seen his movies.
Are they not familiar with the name, or maybe the music? Not music. The movies just don't appeal to a mass audience.
Yeah, I guess. Baby Driver, though, that was a sudden hit, so maybe word of mouth just eventually spread.
Guess he just got lucky.
Yeah, guess so.
So, Patrick, what are your general thoughts on the movie?
I remember I originally wanted to see this movie in theaters, but it kind of came and went really quickly, and I didn't get the chance. And I think I rented it from the library once, and my entire family loved it. We loved the quick, snappy humor. We loved the effects. We loved the characters. And watching it again, like after like 5 years having last seen it, I still really like it. I do notice I do have a few issues with it, but overall, I think it's a really fun movie. And this is, even though this is not based on a video game directly, this is likely one of the best video game movies you can watch because it really is just a video game as a movie with the effects and everything and the scoreboard
It
and
definitely
all
does
that.
have that pacing too of a video game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
oh right, because each X kind of feels like a different level in a boss fight.
I feel like
yeah.
that's both a positive and a negative, but I'll save that for later.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
But
know
overall, I think it's a really fun movie.
yeah, I think each volume of the comic had like a different X because the twins just kind of counted as one. And so 6 volumes, 7 X's, and twins. So what'd you guys all think of the humor? And I think we all briefly mentioned we all liked it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really loved a lot of the visual gags they had. The one specifically where Knives comes to visit Scott, he wants nothing to do with her, so what he does is jump out the window, even though
Yeah.
she can clearly see him.
And he reaches back in to get his coat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that was
Wallace
funny.
is just so apathetic to the whole thing.
I think
That's
Wallace,
probably one of my favorite moments in the entire movie.
Wallace is like my favorite character. I think he's incredibly funny.
Kieran Culkin, who knew? You know.
Yeah, yeah. I remember him as the guy from the first episode of Fargo season 2. I think that's the only other role I know him for.
He's also in Home Alone too, as one of the cousins running around.
Oh, right, he's Macaulay Culkin's brother. Oh, I keep
Correct.
forgetting that. Yeah,
You
he's the
thought there
one that
was a
pisses,
different
like, he's
Culkin
the
out
one that
there
pisses
somewhere with
himself.
no relation?
Yeah, he's the one that he's the one that pisses himself. That
Fuller.
Macaulay's like, oh, I don't want to sleep
Fuller.
with him in the bed because he pees. And Gideon, he's in a lot of stuff too. Actually, they're all famous actors. I mean, you got Aubrey Plaza in there. Yeah, actually, let's go through the cast list. We all said our general thoughts, right?
Yeah.
So Michael Cera. Also, might as well just toss out some recommendations. If you liked Michael Cera's character in here, watch Superbad in Juno. He plays the exact same character essentially. I mean, he's not as much of a dick in those two, but the one running theme across all of them is that they love to push this narrative that Michael Cera is someone that fucks, and I just don't believe it. It's the most unbelievable thing. This man does not get women.
Actually, Juno is a movie I've wanted to see again because it's been years since I've seen it, and I remember really liking it.
I recently saw that for the first time like a month or two ago. It partially holds up. Some of it doesn't
Partially?
though. Listen, man, I'm watching this movie and then I see Elliot Page go for cheesy.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, what the hell?
Yeah, I've wondered how different the movie is now with Elliot Page.
Superbad though hasn't aged a day. I saw that not too long ago too. Hilarious.
Yes.
Saw that in the middle of December. That movie is still great.
I've never seen any movie that Michael Cera is in, so I can't really speak about
you got you
how
gotta see
I
you
think of
gotta
him.
see you gotta see Superbad.
Yeah, you guys see Superbad.
I
is
know
one
I
of the
have to.
greatest
People have been
American
telling me
comedies.
to do that.
Superbad and
one
Mean
that-
Girls. Those are like the two halves of the high school comedy in America. Those are the two best ones.
That I have
feel
also
bad that
not seen.
I've never seen either of those. I feel bad.
Oh, so good.
Well, now we know what to talk about next time.
All right, I'll put that on my list.
Then let's see. Michael Cera's sister is played by Anna Kendrick, who
Anna Kendrick.
probably most famous for Pitch Perfect. Probably.
Yeah, and I think this was like this was before Pitch Perfect, so this is like before she was like really, really famous.
Yeah, this was 2 years before Pitch Perfect, but this was actually during. She was also a character in Twilight, so I'm sure the Twilight crowd probably recognized her.
I can't speak for that. I've never seen Twilight.
Yeah, neither.
Ditto. Ditto.
Let's see.
All I know is that it's best to watch drunk with friends at midnight.
I don't know, but
Let's see. Allison Pine, who played Kim. I've apparently seen a lot of movies with her in it, but I don't recognize her in them, so I don't know.
So she's probably just a
She
minor
was
character in
noted
most of
for
those.
Yeah. Let's see. I think this is Aubrey Plaza's first big role. Aubrey Plaza is probably best known for Parks and Rec, right? Yeah, I'd say Parks and Rec. I'm a big fan of her in that superhero TV show Legion. That's an X-Men show. I think it's the best superhero TV show. Actually, if you're a fan of Scott Pilgrim, you'll probably like Legion because it's got similar like visuals in terms of the direction. It really got like a comic book look. Then you got Mary Elizabeth Winstead. She was also in Fargo. Same with Gideon. In fact, I think every season of Fargo has one Scott Pilgrim actor in there, which is kind of funny. Except maybe season one, but season one had Martin Freeman, and he's like in all of Edgar Wright's other movies, so same difference. All right,
What do we think of Chris Evans' performance?
I
The
think he's
actor
hilarious.
playing the actor.
I think he's hilarious. Plays this incredibly like stern role the whole time.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I
he
just-
was good.
I just still
think
find it
everybody's
so
good.
weird how they got a popular actor to play another actor.
it's Inception.
This was
One of the better, yeah.
This was before
One
he
of
was
the
This was like when he was still like B-list actor.
Really?
No way, this was 2010, right?
Yeah.
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 Oh, this was the very year he blew up because I think that's the same year Captain America came out.
No, Captain America came out 2011, 1 year later.
Yeah.
Okay, then yeah, this was right before he blew up.
He was getting there though.
Yeah. What I find interesting though is that with Captain America he started playing like really nice people, but in all of his previous movies he only played douchebags, which I found interesting because he played Johnny Storm, he was a douche. He played like not another teen movie. He played a typical Josh douche that you'd see in a teen movie. That's interesting how he got casted as one of the most nicest people ever in the MCU. Talk about breaking out of your typecasting.
Actually, while we're talking about Chris Evans, thinking about it now, weren't the rules of the movie that Scott has to like physically himself defeat the X? He didn't physically defeat the Chris Evans X.
Nor did he kill the next one either. Well, actually, no, never mind. I'm misremembering.
Because I remember when he's fighting, I don't remember her name, but the female X.
Roxy Richter.
Yeah, her. Originally, it's Ramona fighting, but she says, no, it has to be Scott.
Yeah, I think it's just that Scott has to beat them in something. So if Scott even just beat him in chess, then like it might have counted.
I guess, but he defeated Chris Evans by having him go really fast on a grind rail and then exploding.
I guess maybe that was because it was a challenge that he set for him. So Scott is still responsible, I guess.
Yeah, he beat him on his own terms, so I guess like it's still.
But
that makes sense.
He didn't do anything though.
That's why it's funny.
I mean, he did beat up his stunt team, and he did say he's nothing without his stunt team. So
let's see, he beat Yeah, looking at this cast, how many of these people are in comic book movies or shows? Because
like I said, it's the ultimate comic book movie.
Aubrey Plaza plays a comic book villain in a TV show. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, she's in Birds of Prey. Jason Schwartzman is he's in a lot of Wes Anderson movies, but like so yeah, he's not in a comic book movie, but a lot of Wes Anderson movies. So
I was gonna say 2 of my favorite characters in the whole film were the guys involved with the band. The guy Johnny Simmons, who was young Neil, which you're all too young to understand the reference, but that's a take on Neil Young. And then the other, who's a musician from Canada, no less. And then Mark Webber as Stephen Stills, who is the roadie, I guess. No, he's the guitarist. The roadie is the other guy.
Stills is the
Neil's
talent.
Neil's the roadie.
Right. But young Neil, which is, yeah. And then Stephen Stills was actually in a band with Neil Young called Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. So that's a pretty cool take on that, which I guess the director wanted to do with those 2 characters' names. But those 2 actors, I enjoyed their performance quite a bit in this film.
Oh yeah.
While we're talking about the band, one of my favorite shots in the movie is the opening where they're first playing, and the camera pans way back, and the living room seems a lot longer than it is.
Yeah.
I thought that shot was really cool.
I kind of wonder how Edgar Wright does half of these shots, because like
not just the shots. I think a lot of the small transitions that he does throughout the movie are pretty cool too. One of my favorites, and I know nobody gives a shit about this sort of thing, but when before the first Evil X, when Scott's saying to I think Ramona, that they're gonna meet at the rocket. As soon as he says rock, it immediately cuts out, and then the next shot is
Yeah.
just a sign of the location.
Yeah.
It's a small thing, but I love that so much.
Yeah, he's really, really good at transitions.
It's the little things.
And I think Hot
Yes.
Fuzz has also proved to me that Edgar Wright is one of the best directors ever,
Yeah.
or at least to me.
It is like he does it all on pretty low budgets, like not like super low, but like lower than you'd think. He even had a TV show called Spaced. Like it's a TV show. TV shows they don't get movie budgets, but it's still shot in the exact same style as everything else he's done. So it's just impressive. One of my favorite of the X's was Brie Larson's character. I think she was probably my favorite of all the evil X's. And her little concert scene too, when we see the introduction, that I think that's one of my favorite scenes too.
That has a full song that you don't hear the rest of in the movie.
Yeah, but yeah, and Brie Larson actually sings the song too, and I don't know if this is unpopular opinion, but I've heard the original and her version. I think her version's better.
There's an original version?
Yeah, that's one of the songs where they got it from an actual band.
Oh, okay. I need to hear that for myself then. What did we think of Brandon Routh, i.e. Superman, but vegan?
Well, as
Oh
Superman,
yeah.
pretty good, but as this, he was all right. How he got defeated was pretty funny.
I just love how the movie is saying like if you're vegan you get like godlike superpowers.
Yeah.
Eat your
think that's
veggies,
amazing.
bitch.
That was meant to be like a parody, I think, of how of the self-righteous vegan, how they all think they're better than you. And he's like, well, what if they actually are physically better than
And mentally, they can break your will.
you?
And pretty good on the bass guitar too. I guess that's just an added perk though.
Yeah.
I found the pretty funny Ramona's like reasons for dating all of them. Like with Matthew Patel, he was like the only like dweeb at the school, so
He
she
was the
dated
only
him.
non-white, non-jock kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they beat up the entire school, which was a weird detail thrown at you. Well,
And then for Todd, it's because I don't think this was the reason, but he punched a hole in the moon for Ramona.
Yeah.
I think I'm missing a detail.
but yeah, overall the cast was pretty great. The only thing I thought was a bit weak was Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Because she is kind of close to the comic version, but she's also not nailed. Like I don't mind Michael Cera because he's just so off, but Mary Elizabeth Winstead, she's a great actress. I didn't think she was that great here. And Brie Larson is almost the inverse, where like her character is incredibly. Her character got a lot of development in the comics, but that's kind of not here. But I think she kind of nailed the
You
role.
don't see her again after Scott beats Todd.
I don't think we see her in
Yeah.
the comic either, but like her issue, because again, each X got like a whole volume. Her volume in particular really like went in depth with her character. Although I guess conversely, Ramona's actual X doesn't get too much development. Yeah, I think that's the thing with Brie Larson's thing. She's the only X that gets a lot of development, even in the source material. But she's not actually one of the X's Scott has to beat. That's just she's just there.
Yeah, she's kind of Scott's own obstacle of his own.
Yeah, she's the most important for Scott's character because
Yeah.
that's Scott's emotional baggage. That's the
Mhm.
X he can't get over.
Yeah.
Because the whole series covers Ramona's baggage, but
Well, speaking of Scott and baggage, one of my favorite running jokes in the movie is every time somebody mentions Scott's hair, in the next scene he has a hat on.
yeah.
Hmm.
I
The
know
next
in
shot.
Yeah, I know in the comic books they kind of make Scott go berserk over it. I think I like how the movie handles it better, where he just puts on the hat and he doesn't physically put it on. It's just a cutaway, which I think is even better.
Yeah, that's great.
Probably the biggest baggage is the Kim thing. I don't think they go in depth within the movie, but they used to date.
The animated short on Adult Swim kind of went over that, but not really.
No, that's the thing. I wanted to bring up. You know how when Ramona and Scott they have their little fight towards the second act with the where her ex girlfriend comes in, and they mention how every breakup is kind of ugly, and then they mention Kim. I found it funny that when Scott he gets mad at Ramona, he goes on this like fake little like rant where he's like, "Oh yeah, when I had to date Kim, I had to beat up like 100 dudes or whatever." But in the comic and in that prequel short, he was telling the truth. That's exactly what he had to do. He actually beat up like 100 people and had to save her. So I thought that was pretty funny.
I know Red has, but have you guys seen the short animation?
No.
Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about, so I guess
Have
mine
you
is
seen
zero.
Bingo. What Patrick said.
Have you seen a Lugia?
I have, yes.
I feel like one of the things that we should talk about is kind of what the whole movie is about, Scott and Ramona's relationship. So what did you guys think of Scott and Ramona's relationship?
I do not buy them being a couple at all. There is
Yeah.
very little to no chemistry between the two.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the thing.
Well,
I think
there's one thing about the movie ever since I first saw it that I've never quite understood is that she first appears in like a dream he's having, and I never really understood that. Like, and then the next day he meets her at the library, and he's like, "That's the girl from the dream." But like, what was the connection between why was she in the dream? What did she
In the-
mean?
yeah,
Yeah, in
so
the first place.
I
Yeah.
never understood that.
that's a comic thing that they just had to include for comic accuracy. Basically, there's this cosmic highway or something, and Ramona literally just uses it to get to places faster, and Scott's head just happens to be kind of a little waypoint in it. But it's used a lot more in the comics, metaphorically and whatnot. But yeah, in the movie, it's just kind of a thing that it's got held over from the comic, but really doesn't have that much importance.
The game also uses that too, but only for like shortcuts.
But yeah, I also thought Scott and Ramona's relationship was weak. I think this might be because they really changed the characters a lot. So it's like, I'm not sure if it's because the actors didn't have chemistry, because the behind the scene things made it seem like they were friends, but it was like, if it was because of the actors lacked chemistry or because they changed the characters so much, but still try to keep the same relationship. But yeah, I don't think it worked. It's a miracle this movie was even good because you'd think that for something that important, it would you'd require better chemistry. But yeah, who knows? You know how people say stuff is style over substance? I feel like it's a bit style over substance here, but the style is like the best style.
Yeah,
So it
I
doesn't
completely
matter.
agree. This is a bit of a style over substance, but like the style and the substance it does have are like so good. It just translates into a really good time.
It still works, but you can definitely tell that something's lacking.
Yeah, like
It looks nice, but that's about it.
yeah, like I feel like the weakest part of the movie is the relationship between the characters. I just wasn't like fully invested in it. Like I mean I do like these characters. I really do like them, but I just wasn't really that interested in what they were going through, even if like the fights and stuff were really cool. It's just they weren't like as fully developed as I think they could have been. So it was harder
You
to get
mean
attached to
every
them.
character in the movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing. I know a lot of people think Scott Pilgrim is Edgar Wright's best movie, but the way I see it, it's kind of like the Harry Potter movies where like there's some things in it that you would only understand if you read the comics and if you're unfamiliar with it, it feels empty. Yeah, I feel like I'm almost in a minority thinking Edgar Wright's first two movies were his best ones and his other three kind of were missing something, but
Yeah,
it,
overall, I'd say I like the first two acts a lot more than the last one because the last one is really focused on the relationships
Yeah.
that Scott and Ramona are having, and since I'm not really fully invested in that, like the movie kind of dips for me. Like it's not bad. It's just I don't think it's as good or as strong as how it started.
I
I
kind of
agree with
feel the same way.
I agree
Elias,
with
you
that
go.
as well. No, I agree. I think I said that initially in my opening that the movie definitely is stronger in the first half and it lags a little bit the last 45 minutes to an hour, in my opinion.
But
I
again,
th-
because that first act is so good, you
Yes,
want to keep going. You want to enjoy the ride.
agreed.
I think I kind of felt that like the moment we started seeing Roxy Richter after the
That's yeah,
Tadakin fight.
that's
Yeah,
kind of when I started tuning out a little bit, to be honest with you, because it was like
yeah.
another
After that
battle.
fight.
yeah, it's really
Yes,
funny that you guys mentioned that because when Roxy shows up, that's basically the moment it diverges from the comic a lot.
it kind of shows too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Having no context of the comic, that's where
Yeah.
I was kind of like starting to zone out a little bit with the movie, and I'm like, okay, this is losing steam now.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
all right, I'll be honest. I think the first 3 X's in the movie are the best parts, and it's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
right after the Todd Ingram fight. Like no shit. 2 minutes after that fight, we get to the next X, which is Roxy Richter, and I'm like,
Mm.
what happened to the pacing here?
I don't know,
Yeah.
but you briefly see her run into Scott, literally, like a
Yeah.
few scenes before.
Yeah, but there's
But
still
it was-
no like, there's no time to digest one
Yeah.
action
Yeah.
scene from the next. It just
No.
happens.
That's the problem. That's the problem I have with that. Is like you can't digest what's happened. It's like, oh, action fight.
Yeah.
Like, stop. Just stop.
Well, speaking of not really being able to digest stuff, another problem I have is that Knives, after they break up, has really little significance. Like, she tries to get back with Scott by like trying to look like Ramona, but it's literally in one scene and is never addressed again.
No, he
Yeah,
ends up
and then,
not
like,
he. She ends up
briefly
hooking with
with-
Neil.
Yeah, she's briefly.
Yeah,
with
I know,
them.
but like it really has no bearing on anything. And I really didn't care that much.
Yeah, I guess with the original ending, like it works a little bit better because she's important to the ending. But like, again, I don't really like that ending that much either. I do think that she has better chemistry with Scott than Ramona.
I mean, we do see them actually do stuff together in their
Yeah,
free
I mean,
time.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
the most we saw Ramona and Scott do? Them talk about how bread makes them fat.
Kiss
Like,
on a
that's like
train.
that's the bread scene is like the only scene where they really have chemistry, Scott and Ramona.
They fight
Yeah.
Roxy, but if they don't, they die. So it's like whatever.
And then at the party, you have that like perks of being a wallflower type thing, I guess, a little.
Actually, speaking of the party scene where he's telling her the Pac-Man stuff, something I noticed for the first time when I was watching it is if you notice when they first meet on the wall, there is a light switch way up by the door, and I'm like, it's completely out of arm's reach.
Yeah.
Like, I
exactly.
never noticed that before. I'm like, what is that light switch doing up there?
You must be at least this tall to have permission to turn off lights.
And I never noticed that.
That's
It
another
was weird.
pretty fucking visual gag, I think. So I guess let's start talking about the ending.
I
the
still have
actual-
other stuff to mention about what I don't like.
Oh,
But
okay,
if you
go
want to
ahead.
talk about the ending, go ahead.
Well, I was going to talk about the microchip.
Oh yeah, the microchip.
All right, I guess I should bring up this point too. Out of all the X's in the whole movie, I think I like the twins the least. And this is like right after Roxy as well. And there's not really a whole lot of time to digest the action in that fight compared to this one. And I think
Yeah,
the
they're-
twins are the worst case because we don't see them talk. They're just kind of there for the Ant versus Ant battle, which I mean is a cool fight, but we don't really learn anything about them as characters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They just
they're
exist
the-
as a means to be stopped.
yeah, they're just there. They have no personality.
Yeah, I know this would fans would probably hate it, but I almost think it would be better for the adaptation if they made it like 5 evil X's and they just developed Roxy a little bit better and then just cut out those two. Okay, so what are the evil X's? There's the first one, Matthew Patel, then Chris Evans, then Envy, then Roxy.
Todd, not
then-
Envy.
All right, Todd, and then the two twins, and then Gideon. So yeah, if you just cut out the twins and maybe gave more time to Roxy, I think the pacing would have been a lot better because it was really just wasted time with them.
Now, I haven't read the comics. I've only played the game, but aren't the twins like technical geniuses or something because they make robots?
Yeah, I think so. I don't actually remember the twins that much from the comics either, but they were better.
Well, if we're still talking about stuff we didn't like, I have one thing. This isn't really something I didn't like. It's more of a nitpick and something I think would have been cooler. You notice every time like they start playing music, it goes do 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 do, and you see the D's
Yes.
appear out of thin air. Me and my dad both agreed that it would have been really cool if they actually the letter was the corresponding note they were playing. But I mean, since me and my dad both like we know how to read music and everything, like that's something that we noticed, and we're just like it would have been cool if Like if it was an
The
A flat,
actual note.
it showed an
Yeah.
A flat, and if it was a B, it would have showed a B.
Yeah,
But it's
good
still a
point.
cool effect, but it would have been like, you know, it would have been really cool if they corresponded with the actual note.
This movie about music doesn't understand music. 0 out of 10.
Yeah, it's still a cool effect.
Okay. Microchip now?
Yeah, sure.
Alright.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't like the microchip thing. I don't think it works as a metaphor, and I don't think it was really necessary. Like, it was completely unneeded. The baggage explanation really would have been enough. And it would have been better for Ramona's character, and it adds needless confusion. And what's even more confusing is the comic writer knew this because he didn't have the microchip in there at all.
I feel the same way. And
Like the comic, the ending is pretty similar to the comic. Like it has the same beats, but it doesn't have the microchip.
the way the movie suggests this is that after Ramona and Gideon broke up for the first time, he planted the microchip in her, like before the start of the movie. And if that has been a constant thing throughout, then why would Ramona help Scott fight Roxy? Doesn't Gideon want him dead? Yeah, I don't get that. It's just a needless plot device, and it only added problems.
Honestly, every time I watch this movie, I always forget that the chip is even a plot point, and when it does show up, I'm like, "Oh, right, that was there." And even now, I kind of forgot about it until I looked over the document that you gave us, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, the chip. That's yeah,
Which just shows up out of nowhere. Yeah.
yeah,
It really shouldn't have been a thing in the first place.
Yeah, I didn't like its inclusion either.
The actual ending, I feel like we've talked a lot. I did think the Nega Scott thing was pretty funny. That's actually like that was actually like in the comic there was like an actual fight and it was all metaphorical and stuff. But in here it was just like, okay, Scott's a dick, so make Nega Scott really nice. That's like an opposite. That's pretty funny.
yeah."
And in the game, you just fight him just because. I did like that gag though in the movie.
Yeah, that was great. It's like,
That
you think it's
should
gonna
have
be
been
a really
the
big
ending.
fight with Scott versus
Yeah.
himself. Now they're gonna get brunch. Fine, he's a cool guy.
Okay, well, I guess one last thing I want to mention with Michael Cera's character is I think I mentioned how I didn't think it was accurate to comic Scott, but I still kind of liked it. I think the reason is that you know how everyone thinks he's a dick. A lot of people when they read the comic and saw the movie for the first time, they didn't really like think he was that much of an asshole. And I think the thing is that comic Scott is a lot more like overtly a douche. And I almost have a feeling that if they played him, had like comic Scott be accurate in the movie, he would have been an unlikable character. So I think they had Michael Cera plays his usual like Juno shtick because it makes him like seem like more of a bitch. So people are a bit like he seems like a lot more just inherently nice. So people
It's definitely more
would still
about
like the
his
character.
attitude than his actions, and I think that's why people
Yeah.
got confused there.
Seems like a nice person. Like I think that's why
Yeah.
Sarah they got Sarah to play the role because he can.
I mean, he's
He's
still
freaking
done some
likable.
pretty shitty stuff, but he doesn't act like he has.
I guess I will
How
talk
would you
about
how would you grade it? What would be your final grade of this film?
I guess an 8 out of 10. What's someone
I'd
else?
say a 9 out of 10. I haven't really seen a whole lot of Edgar Wright's other works other than just Hot Fuzz. But I feel like this kind of movie was made for someone like me.
Yeah.
Especially because editing wise, this is probably one of the best films I've ever seen. The transitions, as I mentioned before, editing, all the special effects, like holy crap.
They're off the charts, but they're
Yeah.
good, but they can be a little overwhelming at times. Like I think that they're awesome, but sometimes they're just a little bit over the top. Sometimes,
But you
But maybe
can
that was-
just tell that someone put so much blood, sweat, and tears into every
yeah.
single frame.
I would give it an 8 out of 10 myself personally.
Me, I'd say about I guess like an 8.5 in the middle of all of you. It does kind of dip near the end, but again, those first two acts are just so fun
Right.
that you're gonna have a good time. And even though the character relationships are a little weak, I do love the characters on their own. They're all memorable. They're all funny. They're all quotable. It's really hard to dislike it. again, it is a case of style over substance, but it's very fun.
Yeah, and then when you factor in the cast, which I know some of us have mixed feelings on, I tend to think the casting is one of the stronger points of the movie. But yeah, you've got a solid film overall. You know, it's not The Godfather, but few things are.
Yeah.
When will we get Michael Cera in a gangster movie?
Yeah, right.
He'd probably be the guy who gets kidnapped. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I guess we
Actually,
should also
what-
briefly go over any other differences of the comic book and the game.
I don't know. I feel like we covered everything.
And
I'm
then
looking at-
what could we talk about that we could recommend that's very similar in this genre?
So, as this is heavily referenced by anime, I'd say for anime fans, I would recommend the series Fooly Cooly. It's only 6 episodes, so about the length of a movie, like 2 hours. Um, and it's got incredibly similar vibes. I'd say Scott Pilgrim is like a very Western series, but with a lot of influence from Japan. When Fooly Cooly is a Japanese series, but with a lot of references to the West. They have a South Park reference in the middle of the series. It's wild. A lot of people notice the connection, so the creator, Brian Lee O'Malley, had to say that, actually once said in an interview that he wasn't actually influenced by Fooly Cooly. He had seen it, but he wasn't thinking about it at all when he was making this show. Well, series. Let's see. We've already mentioned the Michael Cera stuff, like Juno, but I'd say 500 Days of Summer.
Good film. That's a good film. Very yeah.
500, because it's got like a similar, like, lots of people describe as a deconstruction of the manic pixie dream girl thing, and I feel like, yeah, that's kind of what this movie does too. Similar thing with the main character being a douche, also.
What's the main actor's name in that film?
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
That's who it is. Yeah.
Trevor Gordon-Levitt.
Right.
Great actor.
I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt almost played Scott more accurate to the comic in a way, because like he isn't this sort of wimp. He is kind of got this charismatic aspect to him.
That is something I find
So-
endearing, though. Despite that Scott is supposed to be like this scrawny young adult,
Yeah,
every action scene that he's in, he's kicking ass.
Yeah.
That reminds me, I want to mention something. When they didn't know how to end the movie, so like one of the initial ideas is that it was going to be revealed that Scott, all the video game stuff was just all in Scott's head, and he was like actually just murdering people.
Oh my
Jesus.
Yeah,
No,
but they
no.
changed that. Instead, it just happens like when all those people explode into coins, they just spawn at their house. Like that's what's actually happening. They just respawn back at their house or something. So-
Okay.
Scott
Alright,
has
so-
to get extra lives. What if he runs out?
Oh yeah. Oof.
Mm.
Yeah, let's ignore that. I got another thing I'd recommend is Kill Bill and Into the Spider-Verse. I feel like the direction in those movies, like they all have that comic book look. Especially Into the Spider-Verse, I also think that has a similar sense of humor.
Well, for me, actually, this is the first movie that came to my mind. A lot of what you've been talking about, Red, is like the teen comedy movies and the comic book movies. One of the first movies that came to my head was actually Ready Player One. To get into the video game side of things.
I guess, yeah, maybe. I don't like that movie, so I didn't want to say it. But
I
yeah,
haven't
guess.
seen it. I've heard a lot of good things about it and a lot of bad things about it.
Did I guys ever tell you the story about how I saw the movie?
No, I don't think so.
So I was going to it with a bunch of my high school friends, and then one of my friends, he went to buy the tickets, and then an old man came up and approached us and said, "Hey, do you want these tickets?" And we were like, okay, sure." And he gave it to us. So we had 4
Really?
tickets. Yeah, but there were
Oh my
5 of
God.
us. That's the thing. There were 5 of us. So our friend that went and left, we went to him and was like, "Hey, you're gonna have to pay for your own ticket." Yeah, but we all ended up pitching in, so we all paid like $1 just to pay for one dude's ticket. It was like the weirdest thing.
I remember I saw Ready Player One in this really cool 4D theater, actually, where the seats moved and smoke came out at certain points. It was a very fancy and very expensive theater, but it was a really cool experience.
If there's one nice thing I'll say about Ready Player One is that it is better than the book. A lot better than the book.
I know nothing about the book.
They had a
So-
book.
Bad. Oh my god, the book is bad.
Well, I don't know. That's what I'd say. in terms of
Um,
other movies like Scott Pilgrim?
I would recommend Kick-Ass because it also kind of has that high school. This movie, Scott Pilgrim feels like a high school comedy, even though only none of the characters are in high school. None of them
Except
except
Knives.
Knives
Yeah,
Except
is.
Knives.
these are all college
Yeah,
students,
Knives
post
is.
college. Yeah, I'd say Kick-Ass. Like in terms of direction, it also kind of has that sort of stylish thing, and the main character's also a bit of a dweeb. I've heard people compare this series to Homestuck. I've never read Homestuck, so I wouldn't know, but I don't know, maybe. The James Gunn movie Super, I'd probably toss that in kind of too. That one's a lot more edgy though. That's like R-rated and like violent. So I guess my last recommendation would be like Napoleon Dynamite.
It's been years since I saw that.
Maybe like dashes of Kevin Smith and like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Those kind of remind me of it.
A little bit. A little bit, yeah.
And in terms of like directing, if you really like the directing, I would say all of Edgar Wright's movies, obviously, but particularly The World's End and Baby Driver, because I think The World's End kind of fits similar themes. The main character is also a bit of a douche in that movie, and
I
Baby
want to see
Driver
Baby
has that
Driver again.
romance angle. What?
I want to see Baby Driver again. We should talk about that movie at some point.
Some point.
I second it.
And then there's
Right.
Wes Anderson, obviously, because he also got the very symmetrical, clean cut style. Taika Waititi, he's got a similar director style to Wes Anderson, but his humor is more like Edgar Wright's. So I'd say Taika Waititi is like the in between. Um, Taika Waititi's most famous movie is Thor Ragnarok, but I would recommend like his other stuff too. Sin City, that feels like a comic book, just like this. Speed Racer, and I guess the last movie I'll recommend is Kung Fu Hustle.
I forgot Speed Racer had a movie.
I thought
I
How
own
long
it,
ago
actually.
was
was my
that?
life for 8-year-old me. Man, I love that Speed Racer movie and the anime. That was
Really,
like
when did that come out?
2008. I know because
Jesus.
I saw it the exact same weekend as Iron Man came out. I saw like the movies back to back, Speed Racer and Iron Man. That was like the greatest day of my life. Because Speed Racer and Iron Man, I really liked those comics. So and like TV shows. Well, Iron Man, I never saw the Iron Man TV show, but I saw the Speed Racer anime. So, and I guess Zombieland and Attack the Block. I don't know. I've heard those movies compared to this, but I've never seen them, so I can't judge.
Well, Zombieland, I haven't seen the other one.
Okay. Attack the Block is like British Zombieland. I heard.
Uh-huh.
And Edgar Wright's British, so I don't know. Maybe British more humor,
Mm.
more British.
Nothing wrong with that. British humor is good. Just takes a while to get there, but once you get it, it's great.
Yeah. Who knows? If we ever talk about Superbad, I'll talk about In-Betweeners for like half the episode.
Oh my god.
What if we just talk about every Michael Cera movie ever?
Okay, how about we don't?
That would, yeah, and that wouldn't take that long. Come on, now Al Pacino, De Niro. That's a different story.
All right. Well, I guess that's our thoughts on Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Yeah, go watch it if you haven't.
So, since this is the first episode of the podcast, I
Well,
guess
how about this?
afterwards we'll just ask questions from YouTube comments, just in case. But otherwise, we can ask questions amongst ourselves. If not, we'll just stop here.
I gotta say, this was really fun.
Yeah, this was really fun, and it's only took about an hour and a half. I'd say that's surprisingly quick.
We can keep it going longer.
Yeah,
I mean, do you guys have any other thoughts about the movie?
No. I was thinking. That,
I will actually recommend the video game.
Yes, I would recommend all of the Scott Pilgrim media. I think all of them are good.
Well, actually, Lugia, I wanted to ask you: is the whole reason that you watched the movie and decided to do this is that because the like complete edition of the video game came out not too long ago?
No, actually.
Really?
So how I knew about Scott Pilgrim when trailers for the movie started coming out. It looked interesting. I didn't really want to watch it though cuz I was like that back then. So the whole idea of Scott Pilgrim media just kind of faded into obscurity in my mind for 10 years. And then after I was doing movie nights with a couple of other friends of mine, someone recommended we watch Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard of that, I think. I didn't know what to think about it going in. He told me that I definitely like it though, and well, he was right.
It's basically right up your alley.
Yeah, and I never thought I would like it until a month and a half ago.
That reminds
So
me.
you know who you are. Thank you very much.
That does remind me. Since we're on the video game, I recommended people stuff for if you're a fan of the the movie and comic, but if you're a fan of the game, check out this other game called I think River City Girls. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
River City Girls. It's incredibly similar to the Scott Pilgrim video game, stylistically and whatnot. But yeah,
I don't
other
know.
than
I
that,
feel like that's kind of a whole different can of worms. I mean, they are classic beat 'em ups essentially,
yeah,
but they are mechanically different.
they're mechanically different. But I feel like if you're into the style of Scott Pilgrim, like the visuals of it, then they're similar there. Beat 'em ups all have like different sort of gameplay.
That's
Um,
fair. Also, about the video
well,
game.
here's another recommendation: Turtles in Time, the Ninja Turtles beat 'em up, because that's also based on a comic. Why not?
But which version?
The Super Nintendo version.
There you go.
What were you saying, Lugia?
So, I mean, we have the video game now again, that's great, but I will never understand why Ubisoft deleted the game from the PS3 digital store all those years ago.
Yeah.
Because for a
Oh.
while, I think like 7 years straight, the Scott Pilgrim game was considered one of the only games where you can never buy it again.
Yeah, for
Really?
years, these guys they could only play the game at my house because I just happened to have downloaded it when it was still on. So like, I have the original version on my Xbox. I think Lugia, you own the new version, right?
I have it on Switch, yeah.
Yeah, he owns the new version. I own the original. That's how Patrick played it actually. My house.
Yeah.
I was like, hey man,
Mm.
I got the Simpson and X-Men arcade game, and you're like, hey, I'm a big fan of the Scott Pilgrim movie. And he was like, all right, we'll play that one.
Actually, I don't really play many beat 'em ups, so
I went through beat 'em up phase, so I just bought like a ton.
I don't know.
I never
I've
really
only
was into beat 'em ups until I started playing River City Girls. I liked it then, and then when Scott Pilgrim Complete Edition came out, I tried that, and I think that one's a little bit better, honestly. I'm still not really a beat 'em up guy, but I can definitely go back to those games, no problem, and just have fun.
Yeah,
I think the only beat 'em ups I've played are Scott Pilgrim and the Simpsons game.
yeah.
I think that's better than that. Like
I don't know
maybe I
if
briefly played one of the Turtle games, but I don't know.
I don't know if Yakuza 0 counts as a beat 'em up, but that's a beat 'em up
That
to me.
series has been so popular nowadays.
Yeah, 0 really blew it up. I'm that's one of the few series where I actually get hipster cred because I played the original version on PS2 once, only for like a few hours, but that's enough for me to get hipster cred.
I got it. All you need to do is play a single minute of gameplay of that. And that's how you get credit.
I mean, I was familiar with the series before it blew up, so I'm gonna claim my cred there, all right? Because I came across Shenmue one day, and then I heard someone compare it to Yakuza, and I was like, all right, cool.
Guys, this is a little bit of a change of subject, but still on the subject of Scott Pilgrim. This just popped into my head. Lugia, Red, do you guys at all remember the Mad cartoon parody of Scott Pilgrim?
Mad cartoon
Mad,
parody.
remember Mad on Cartoon Network?
I remember the show. I don't remember the parody.
They did a Scott Pilgrim parody, except he was in the parody. He was dating Snow White, and he had to beat the seven dwarves.
Oh, and now I remember it. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I do not remember that.
I'm sure you could find it on YouTube.
Yeah.
That just popped in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, they did do a parody of that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Anyway, I was thinking that we could, I guess, go on a recommendation like cycle, like So since Lugia recommended this week, I'll recommend for next week, and then Patrick, and then Elias.
That sounds good.
That seems like a good idea. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. So let's see. What movie am I going to recommend? Is it going to be something I've already seen or something I haven't?
Maybe what's a movie that we haven't seen?
All right. I'll list a movie I haven't seen. And something that's convenient to get. So let me check Netflix right now.
That's what streaming services are for.
Oh, yeah. What streaming services do you guys all have? Do you guys have access to Netflix?
Yes.
Everything.
All right. I'll stick to Netflix right now just because I'm not sure what else. And I'll pick one based on a director just so I can talk more about their other works. Let's see.
I feel like we got a lot of Edgar Wright in this
Yeah,
podcast anyway.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I'm not gonna direct an Edgar Wright movie, but I'll direct something else that I really like from a dude.
Tarantino.
Uh, maybe. Let me just look at what they have. They got a lot of stuff here. Wow, man, I haven't looked at Netflix in a while, but they got a good selection now. They got stuff I haven't even seen, but that's right. I need to talk about something I haven't seen.
So in the meantime,
Yeah,
this is
you
just a
guys
dumb
talk me out
question.
about
Why does Scott do the Sonic Adventure pose on the cover for the complete edition?
because it looks cool as
Got
hell.
here. Let me look that up. Scott
That's real, by the
Pilgrim,
way.
Because it looks cool as hell, and
Pilgrim
I guarantee
edition.
Sonic the Hedgehog is a franchise that people pretend to be embarrassed about, but everyone likes him.
I mean, Sonic has
Oh
been
my
kind
god,
of a
he
meme.
does. Oh my god, yes, on the Switch box art.
The Sonic Adventure pose is just one of the most iconic poses in video game. The perfect thing to reference.
I don't get why it is though.
Listen, people say Sonic had a rocky transition to 3D, but everyone still likes the first two adventure games. They're flawed, but people still like them.
I don't know. I don't know
Almost
about that.
all the
I like
complaints I've
them. I
heard,
don't think a lot of people around me do though.
all the people I know who complain about the game complain that you have to play as a bunch of characters that don't have fun gameplay. But everyone likes Sonic's gameplay, and like that's the most important part.
Then again, in Adventure 1, you had 6 campaigns, at least half of which were not very fun.
6 campaigns are not fun. I mean, I wouldn't say half
Well,
of
he
them are
said
not
half of the 6 campaigns are not fun, so 3 of
don't-
them.
I don't
think
mind
Gamma's
Gammas.
gameplay is
I
funny.
do
Fun.
hate Amy and Big though.
My unpopular opinion is I don't know why, but when I played Sonic Adventure 2 recently, because I was just like in a really casual mood and I wasn't like, oh, I just want to play Sonic, I actually end up really liking Tails and Eggman's gameplay, and I've never had a problem with Knuckles, so I'm gonna say I actually like the entirety of Sonic Adventure 2 for the most part. Some levels aren't great, but overall, I think like the whole thing's pretty good.
At space. I like how we went from Scott Pilgrim to Sonic Adventure.
You know what? I'm gonna call it now. We are gonna reference Sonic in almost all of our episodes at some
I
point.
do
More
not
than
doubt
likely.
that.
I mean, we're all Sonic fans.
I'm pretty sure that's how some of us like met. That was a common denominator between all of us. We were all in our Sonic phases when we met. Well, I want to do something that's beginner friendly. Like I'm not gonna recommend The Irishman, because that's a Scorsese movie where you need to see
That
like.
is a completely different end of the spectrum.
Is that a challenge?
I accept.
I'm not recommending The Irishman. I don't want to see that again.
Oof,
I liked it, but it was like 3 hours long. That's long as hell.
that's nothing. Go watch Godfather 2. It's 4 hours.
I have seen Godfather too.
I need to see that trilogy.
I have not seen Godfather 3. Would that be a good idea? Recommend Godfather 3 and like, yeah, that's my recommendation.
Going from
Godfather
Scott
3.
Pilgrim to the Godfather, that's kind of a really big canyon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's not streaming anyway. So unless you have the
and
discs,
It's a completely
I have
different
the
genre.
files.
It's a completely different tone. It's a
Alright.
completely different time.
It'd be funny
And
if it was
the
a different
third
tone.
movie
Okay,
of all things.
fine. I won't recommend Godfather, but I am gonna recommend like a completely different tone. All right. I don't care if it's a different tone. There, you know what? I'm just gonna type in Godfather. Let's see what gangster movies on Netflix.
Goodfellas?
I saw
Good
Goodfellas
one.
like 2 weeks ago. I'm not watching that again.
I've never seen it before.
Oh, come on, Lugia.
Okay, how about The Departed? Because I saw the Hong Kong original, so I could talk a bit there about the comparisons.
Alright.
Okay, The Departed.
You guys okay with that?
The
Yeah.
Departed. Yeah, okay.
Great movie.
Yep.
Alright. Guess we're doing The Departed next.
Yeah. Man, that's gonna be an unpopular opinion from me. All right.
So is that
I
is
guess
that our
that's
next
it.
podcast?
Yep, The Departed for next week.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I don't think there's any cuts. It was directed by Martin Scorsese. So if you guys have any Scorsese experience or want to check out his other stuff ahead of time, It's an adaptation of Infernal Affairs, which is a trilogy, but it's mostly just adapting the first one. So, and I've only seen the first one, so
I want to
Go watch
say
it.
I
Go
have
watch.
some experience. I can't say which movies off the top of my head.
I'm
Uh,
a Scorsese guy here, so
yeah, I'm a huge Scorsese fan.
You ever seen Main Streets?
Yeah, I've seen. I think I've only skipped down on like a few Scorsese movies. I think I've seen most of them.
Main
I've
Streets,
seen,
1973, one of his first and best.
yeah, I've seen 16 of his movies, uh, and I've also seen the Bad music video. So I'm gonna count that. So 17. Hell yeah.
Only
Michael,
Scorsese movie I've seen is Goodfellas.
didn't you see Hugo with me?
No,
You never saw Hugo?
I saw like half of Hugo once because my parents got it from the library, but like I never finished it.
Lugia, did you see King of Comedy? I told you to watch King of Comedy after we saw Joker.
I think I did. I don't remember much about it though. Let me see if I've seen any other Scorsese films.
Yeah. Okay. You can stop the recording, by the way. Well, I've already recommended it.
Okay, cool. So so that's gonna be it. Next time we're gonna watch The Departed.
Yep.
All right.
All right, cool. We'll see you here next week. Goodbye.
Okay.
See ya.
Bye.